What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Pick Six Podcast, CBS Sports and AFL Podcast. I'm Brinson. I'm your host. Joining me for a Power Ranks edition, sort of like I don't know, whatever. This show is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. Pete Prisco, John Breech, here to break down the playoffs.
What's that hat you got on?
What's that?
What's that hat on you got there?
I wish it said Buffalo Bills, but it says Durham Bulls.
Oh, okay.
Saturdays are full of Saturdays
like
are for the
1995
Bulls.
Chicago Bulls hat. I thought you were supporting Michael Jordan.
My hair, I didn't sleep well at all last night.
Hair plug story.
No, just my hair is like wild right now.
Hair plug story. That would be me if I ever got it.
No, Pete, your hair looks great.
I have hair plugs. If you're watching on YouTube, smash the like button. Like, smash the crap out of it.
Or painfully touch it.
Or just gently touch it. If you are listening, make sure to give us a 5-star review. We got a bunch of emergency podcasts. Mike Vrabel fired by the Tennessee Titans. We'll probably dive into that with Pete. Breech and I just broke that down in an emergency pod. I think there's plenty of spots he could land. Of course, we have a Ron Rivera emergency podcast, a Black Friday recap podcast, and a playoff early odds podcast. My God, so much to talk about. Pete, Mike Vrabel out in Tennessee. I have like several questions I would ask you about this. Like, so I'll just like kind of start lobbing them out. One, were you surprised by it? Two, how quickly does Mike Vrabel land a job? Three, where would you rank this job? Because and four, who the hell are the Titans? They got nothing. No identity to this team.
Okay, let me start first with, am I surprised by this? No. And in fact, I talked to a guy in the league yesterday, said it was never going to work with Rand Carthon and Mike Vrabel. Two of the same type of personalities banging heads. So, no, I'm not surprised. Mike Vrabel can be hard and tough to work with, and Rand Carthon has a toughness about him as well. So, no, I'm not surprised. Who wants the job? That's a good everybody, because there's only 1 of 32 in the NFL. Everybody always says that. You pay him the right amount of money, and it's 1 of 32. It'll be a lot of people who want that job. What do they need to do? Get with the times. The Titans over the last 30 years, when you think Tennessee Titans football, what do you think? Run the ball, run the ball, run the ball. You got to get with the times. You have that strong arm quarterback. You have to build that thing around him like the Buffalo Bills built it around Josh Allen. So find him a good receiver, a fast receiver. Tyjae Spears adds some speed to that offense. Get with the times. It's okay to be strong and physical on both lines, because I still think that's a necessity for every team in this league. But you have to be able to throw it when you need to throw it. And so look at bright offensive minds, and not just because they're on teams that have success right now, because we get enamored with that too much. Oh, well, his team is going to the playoffs and he's the offensive coordinator, so therefore he should be a head coach. Find the right head coach, the guy who's going to lead men. He doesn't necessarily have to be the play caller, but and I'm going to go to D'Amico Ryans here.
Yeah.
D'Amico is a brilliant defensive mind. What did he hire? He hired Bob Slowick to be his offensive coordinator. That's brilliant, because he runs that 49ers system and makes it easy on the quarterback. Hire the right guy. And so when I look at that job, Todd Monken, and Todd Monken he's been a head coach before, by the way. People they don't remember he was the head coach at Southern Mississippi and turned that program around.
Yeah, he turned. That was after who's the coach? Was it was Sylvester Croom there? Or was that Mississippi State?
No, that was at Mississippi State.
Well, Todd Monken had Southern Miss kind of rolling.
Yes, he did. And so he's been a head coach. He knows what it takes to be a head coach, and he's got the right temperament, and he's a brilliant offensive mind. He would make a lot of sense there. A guy like that, you could build Levis around him and let him, play it, build that offense around him. Because, look, everybody always called the Titans, and BMAC made this up, in the way team. They were always going to be 9-7, 10-7 now, but back then 9-7, 10-7. And be a team that wins, gets in, and maybe does one game, but they were never a real threat the way they were constructed to go.
They were never going to win the Super Bowl.
Not with the way they were constructed. You have to be able to throw the ball. You have to be able to run it when you need to run it, but you have to be able to throw it. And so I would do it that way. and get with the times a little bit. So is it an attractive job? I mean, Nashville's a great place to live. I
don't know if that's the number one requirement.
You could be my neighbor.
You don't have state income tax. You don't have state income tax.
That's attractive. I put it as
very attractive.
I put it as number 5 out of the 6 jobs, but I should note that I had Washington 1, the Chargers 2, Atlanta 3, Raiders 4, and I think all 4 of those are pretty close together. Big gap, Tennessee 5, bigger gap, and then Carolina 6.
How can Washington be number 1 when Rick Spielman's consulting?
Wilson was I thought Wilson was gonna get choked up. Yes, that might be why he's not here. Wilson's like mourning. Rick Spielman's Rick is still working with us, so I think it's fine. But
well, I mean, I told somebody my brother Richie texted me. He's been a Commanders fan for a long time because he used to live in DC, and he texted me. He goes, I didn't realize Rick Spielman was consulting. I go, Richie, think about this for a second. They are paying a guy to consult on their job search, and I know more about the game than he does. I found that out the last 2 years.
I mean, it is true. It is true. Like they're paying Rick to consult, like on the job search, and he spent his Sundays the last 2 years sitting with you watching football. Like,
it's amazing, and the things that come out, the things I teach him, it's unreal. And like I always say, Brinson, and you made the crack to me today on Twitter, on X, where I said it's just football. It's not that complicated. It really is not that complicated.
Do you think Mike Vrabel has a Breech asked this? We talked about this on the emergency pod. Do you think Mike Vrabel gets a job next year
for 2024?
Yeah.
No.
Oh.
Well. Let me.
I mean, head coaching job, not like a Walmart.
What happens in New England?
Belichick's out. Is Vrabel get a job?
He'll be in the conversation. He'll probably end up with a job. Again, though, if and I think Mike Vrabel's a good football coach. Don't get me wrong, but if I'm hiring Mike Vrabel, I got to make sure I can work with him. Mm-hmm. I also have to make sure that he's going to be who's he hiring for his offensive coordinator? Because look at his offensive coordinator he's had in Nashville. They ran through him. Arthur Smith was there, then he left.
Well, 2 of them got head coaching jobs, Matt LaFleur and Arthur Smith.
Yeah, but he didn't like Matt LaFleur.
Yeah.
That was the word. He wanted Matt LaFleur out of there anyways.
Do you think that these coaches should more often take a year off in between these jobs? It feels like every coach who like Frank Reich did it, Rex Ryan did it,
Doug Peterson did it.
Yeah, it's like, well, Doug took a year off, right?
Yeah.
No, I'm saying a lot of coaches don't take the year off and like jump right back into the first available job. And it oftentimes like it doesn't give them time to recharge, I feel like.
You only have so many earning years in your body, and you only have so many earning years to be the hot guy. You fade off into oblivion.
You know who didn't take a year off? Andy Reid.
Right. You know, Brian Billick took time off. Remember Brian Billick, and he wanted back in. He never got back in.
That's true. I want Bill Belichick to take the Chargers job and start like wearing like flower lay, like wearing like lay necklaces and like Hawaiian shirts and just be like, hey, what's up, guys? Like chill. Like I wanted to like do the Andy Reid metamorphosis. Like when Andy Reid went from Philly to Kansas City, he just started being like Hawaiian Joe barbecue man.
I get the impression that Belichick is, you start hearing little things about him willing to give up his personnel power, that he just wants to stay.
He just wants to beat Shula's record in New England and beat Walker. Right?
Yeah, that's what we were talking about. He's old. He doesn't want to start over. You want to do what you know, coach for 2 more years, like Brinson just said, break the record and call it a career.
Right. And so that's the easy way to go do it. Just stay there. And
like
give
Pete,
up because Bill Belichick, the personnel guy, we've documented that many times. He should be out. But Bill
Pete,
Belichick,
you don't want if Yahoo Sports called you, was like, hey, we're rebooting our NFL department. You want to come on over and head things up? You'd be like,
What are they paying me?
Jaguars.
Would I want to move? No, I love where I work. I love what I do. So no, I would not want. I love where I live. I love where I live.
Prisco, you've been at CBS longer than some people have been alive.
Yeah,
my entire life.
A lot of people. This is, by the way,
you're never leaving.
You know what year I'm starting right now at CBS?
24.
24.
Yeah.
I was in high school.
What was CBS called when you started?
Sportsline.
Did we even have a website?
It wasn't. Yeah. It was Sportsline. It was sportsline.com, and then it became CBSSportsline.com, and then it became CBSSports.com, and then it became CBS Sports HQ and everything else. Yeah.
So when I was in college, because it's 2024. Like I started college in '99. We started our fantasy league on sportsline.com. Oh no, we started on CBS. I think we started on CBS sportsline.com. But I mean, like people have been, my friends have been complaining about you for decades now.
Yeah,
that's hilarious.
Yeah. I mean, my family all do anyway. Speaking of Duval County,
in college we would argue about Prisco's power rankings. Now here we are doing a power ranking show with him.
Arguing about Prisco's power rankings. That's right. Yeah. Speaking of Duval, the Jaguars fired their defensive coordinator and then let 2 offensive guys go today, but didn't fire Press Taylor, their offensive coordinator. And the statement that Doug Peterson issued is the weirdest statement I've ever seen firing coaches. Since our season's end, I've made the difficult decision to relieve several members of the coaching staff on both sides of the offensive and defensive sides of the ball, on both the offensive and defensive sides of the ball, of their duties. I want to thank each of these coaches for their tireless efforts these last 2 seasons. Ultimately, I felt change was necessary to allow our football team to reach the goals for which we are capable. No, doesn't name a single name. Just these guys are fired.
Well, the part of the problem is they're firing coaches and not firing the general manager. And Trent Baalke, look, he's going to get all over me again like he always does. He doesn't like me anyways. I don't care. I did radio last night in Jacksonville with Tony Vaselli, and I flat out said, somebody asked, what would you do? I said, they need to make changes with how they build the roster. And that means getting rid of Trent Baalke. And they for whatever reason, Coughlin was there. He was there. He stays. Dave Caldwell's there. He's there. He stays. Caldwell goes. Urban Meyer comes in. Urban Meyer goes. He stays. He stayed through it all. And yet, look at their roster. This team, by the way, because of his roster building, on paper right now will be worse than they were this year. Because they have to pay Josh Allen or tag him. Calvin Ridley, what do you do with him? If you pay Calvin Ridley, you have to give up a second-round pick.
Yep.
You're not going to do that. They have offensive line issues. Sheriff makes way too money and played poorly. The center isn't very good. He drafted him in the 3rd round. This year's draft, this is what they got out of this year's draft. Think about this. The right tackle is going to be a good player. He starts. And the Harrison kid from Oklahoma, good player. 2nd round, the tight end from Penn State had 36 receiving yards and can't block.
36 receiving yards.
Yes. The backup running back that he drafted in the 3rd round, Bigsby, didn't do much of anything. They have problems. They're little on the offensive line. They're not physical enough on the offensive line. They get blocked on the defensive line. They got high-priced guys over there on the defensive line that get blocked. And he's responsible for that. And yet he keeps going and going and going and going. And I don't understand it. Now, there are rumblings that maybe he's going to walk away, but I don't know if that's true. But
Trent Baalke's going to walk away?
There's retire maybe. I don't know. Who knows? But I can't imagine he leaves that job.
So it's fitting that we're talking about him real quick just because remember he won a power struggle with Jim Harbaugh. The 49ers picked Baalke over Harbaugh, who clearly they made the wrong decision there. And now here we are 10 years later having another conversation about how you can pin a lot of the blame on Baalke.
Somebody asked me on text because I was I was texting some friends like, dude, like Jim Harbaugh just wins everywhere he goes. He might be a crazy person, he might be abrasive, whatever. He wins. And he just wins. And somebody was like, what's the deal? He can't stay anywhere more than 3 years. I was like, well, he didn't do that for a while. He's been at Michigan for 9 years now, and it is his alma mater. But he's 9 years is a long time to be somewhere. And he went to 3 NFC Championship games with the Niners. And then went 8-8 and lost a power struggle to Trent Baalke. And that's why Trent Baalke drafted Trayvon Walker over Aiden Hutchinson, that in his long arms.
And then Trent Baalke signed Jim Tomsulo to be the head coach.
Do you remember that? Do you remember that combine? You remember that combine?
To him. Yeah. And so, again, office politics in the National Football League is awful. And so Mike Vrabel is probably guilty of getting fired because of office politics. He and Rand Carthon supposedly didn't get along. They're two strong-minded individuals.
Pete froze.
That was the Titans. They cut off me when I was talking to Brinson. Now they're cutting off. They have that kind of power.
No, but here's what happens. A coach and a GM go into a building together, and they're all happy. The first year we're working together. Hey, it's great. And then the draft happens, and they draft a player, and he doesn't develop the way they thought he would. Well, the coach starts blaming the GM for drafting that guy where he drafted him, and the GM starts blaming the coach for not developing him. And so then what do you have? You have friction in the building. And even when they have success, the egos start getting in the way. Who's responsible? It's my team. I built it. It's my team. I coached it. And so when you have that, that's when you have the problems. That's why it's great for the Rams with Les Snead and Sean McVay. They don't have that. Les, you've been around Les. Les isn't an egomaniac. I mean, yeah, Les.
Sure, he's got great hair, but he's not an egomaniac.
He portrays himself as the cool surfer dude and all that and everything else. But there's no, between the two of them, it's not an ego versus ego thing. And I think that's, these guys have to realize you're at the top of your profession, both of you, and you're both making millions. Why would you allow your ego to interfere with that?
Yeah. Because that's how you get to the top of your profession. I don't know. Egomaniac. So, look, Jaguars, I agree with you completely. Jaguars would be better off getting rid of Trent Baalke. It's amazing. It's amazing how people do this, not only just like in football, but also in life, how people can like sort of just weasel their way to these positions of power. And it's like, like who knows? Like, I can't even imagine what Trent Baalke's like in like a meeting situation. I'm sure he's fantastic.
Well, he listens and pays attention to everything.
That's what I'm saying.
I mean, You guys know I do the Jacksonville radio from 4 to 6 every Monday during the season with Tony Baselli. There's a guy who was an intern in their organization and then went to Minnesota and was in their PR department. And he told me, he said his job when he was the intern was to monitor everything I said on Monday. I mean, but the reason I do that show is because they asked me to do it, and I did it with the one caveat: I can say whatever the hell I want. So if I think this guy needs to be fired, I fired Urban Meyer every week, and that got out of control. Probably even on my part, I was bad, but I fired him every week on their air. And if you're not going to be real, then I won't do it. I don't need to do it. I just do it because I like being involved in that organization in terms of kind of my pulse on it, because I've been there. So I've been around it so long. So he needs to go. And you know what? If he walked up next to me and he said to me many a time, "You're hard on me," and I go, "I'm hard on you when you do things bad. And if you do things well, I'll tell you do things well. If you don't like it, oh well." And so his time has come in Jacksonville.
Yep. I agree with that. All right, let's take a break. When we come back,
we didn't even mention the fact that he hired Jim Tomsula and Chip Kelly.
Oh, the Jim Tomsula thing. Remember that combine?
To throw that out.
When we were having the conversation, it was me, you, Lockenfora, Bob Lang, the old 49ers PR guy, and Tom Sewell. And Bob's like, this guy's fantastic. And we're talking to him, and he's like drooling and spitting. And we're like, this is going to be such a train wreck.
Well, you know what? He was no threat.
No, he was not. That's right. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, bold predictions next.
Like a flying arrow. You with me? Absolutely on the money. Full speed here. We're racing. Oh, that was tight. Gotta go. And we are on. Just gotta get to the finish line here, guys. And now the party can really begin. Right on, guys. Yeah!
All right, back here on the Pick Six podcast. No power ranks. I mean, look, the power ranks kind of take care of
something about the power rankings. I just want to put this out there because I mocked myself the last power rankings. I go back and look where I started teams. I had the Rams at 31 to start the season and the Texans at 30. Oh my God.
Did you have at 31?
I had the Rams at 31 and the Texans at 30 to start.
I feel like everyone had the Texans low.
But the Rams,
that logic made sense in the preseason.
But the Rams,
if you had hung out with Brinson and I more, they would have been a top 20 team.
I had the Rams going to the playoffs.
You did not.
I had the Rams.
Your whole thing is just some Matt Stafford infatuation. You didn't believe it.
I had the Rams going 9-8 in my season long predictions.
I bet Adam Beasley $50 that the Rams would finish in first or second place in the NFC West this year. He laughed at me, wanted to up it to 100, which I should have done. I did not. Beasley owes me $50. We're putting that out in the public.
Rams actually went 10-7. They went better.
I got right. Like I had the Browns. I got the Browns right. I thought they'd be a playoff team, and I had Packers. No, most people didn't have the Packers making the playoffs. I did, so I got some right. But man, the Rams, I missed. I whiffed on that one.
Sorry, I was looking at Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers continuing his rant. Apparently, went after Mike Foss. I love Mike Foss.
Oh God,
good guy. Anyway, let's talk about bowl predictions for the wild card round. Pete, we'll each go around. We'll just do a round robin. We'll start with Pete, go to Breech, go to me. Bold prediction, Browns, Texans.
What's the bold? I mean, it has to be bold or just
any bold prediction.
Joe Flacco throws for 340 and 3.
Ooh, that was going to be mine.
Hey, he's playoff Joe Flacco.
That's an A+. That's an A+ for me. We'll grade yours.
Joe Flacco, January.
We could, in the interest of time, how about Pete gives us a bold prediction for each one, and Breech, you and I will grade it. How about that?
Okay.
All right. I give that an A+. I think Flacco could go off. If you're going to beat the Texans, you got to beat them through the air. They can slow down the run. I think Kevin Stefanski knows it. Joe Flacco's not afraid to sling the ball around. Stefanski's not afraid to let him throw 40 times. And he's January Joe. Like, I think the Browns have a Super Bowl ceiling upside just because Flacco, again, I've said this a lot, but it's how meaningfully different is his skill set from like what it was 10 years ago. It's not. He's basically the same guy. He's a little bit older. He can win games.
And that opening game in that building will be fast too. It'll be a fast track for him.
Yep. Breech, what
was it? Flacco would throw for 340 yards
and 3 touchdowns.
Oh, and 3 touchdowns. Ooh, that adds some spiciness to it. Yeah, I'll give that an A-. I like it. I can't be as generous as Brinson, but it's a solid prediction.
Worth noting, Amari Cooper rest/heal, no practice on Tuesday. Think he should be fine but yeah, he'll play for that game. Njoku, David Njoku, Amari Cooper could have big games. Okay, Pete. Dolphins Chiefs. Tyreek Hill's first game as a visitor at Arrowhead Stadium. Of course, the Chiefs beat the Dolphins 21-14 in Germany in Week 9. I think these two teams are combined 2-9 against playoff teams this season. What's your bold prediction for this game?
That we'll hear about the weather 1,342 times during that game.
Unfortunately, it will be less because the game is only on Peacock.
But they'll still hear about it from the announcers and the sideline reporter, whoever. We're going to hear about it. Oh my God, it's so cold. And you guys know how I feel about cold ruins football games. It just does. It takes everything that you've trained to do to become a good football team and just cast it to the side. The Miami Dolphins in that weather, their offense, if everybody's healthy, will not be the same offense in that weather. And so I hate weather games. Everybody, oh, great, the snow games. It's what brought the NFL to what it is. No, it isn't. And when they did, they ran the ball 50 times a game. It's a different era. Snow, wind. If it's a snow game and it's not windy, I'm okay with that because you can still throw the football and score. If it's frigid, cold, and windy, it sucks.
Here's a bold prediction for it. I think that's
real quick to Pete's point about the weather. The Dolphins 0-10 in their last 10 games where the temperature was under 40 degrees.
I'm going to give it a C- just because that's like a whiny old man bold prediction. He's like, hey, they're going to complain about the weather.
We're going to hear about it over nonstop. And it's cold. Great.
But isn't it a legit storyline?
I've been in Kansas City for playoff games when it's been under 0 and it's nasty.
Pete, isn't it a legit storyline, though? You just mentioned the Dolphins won't play as well in cold weather, and they clearly have not played as well in cold weather. So, I mean, I feel like it is a legit storyline if it's going to impact the play on the field versus us. It's not like pointing Taylor Swift in the crowd where that doesn't impact the play on the field. The weather actually has an impact.
Yeah, no, it hasn't. I get it. I just think that me personally, I don't like it. The fact that, and everybody will say, well, the Dolphins should have just won and they would have been home. I get it. But you work your whole year and you're a team that's supposed to play outside and throw the football around and be a high tempo offense, and you get caught with that. Yeah. And the funny thing about that is normally we think the weather would impact the Chiefs offense, but they haven't been that this year.
Here's my bold prediction for this game. the Chiefs win by more points than Tyreek Hill has catches.
No, I don't. I agree with that one. That's not
Okay.
that bold.
Yep.
That's a D.
Yeah, so I was going to say yards, but that felt a little bold.
That would have been. That's a bold prediction.
Really bold.
All right, Chiefs win by more points than Tyreek Hill has
That's
yards.
an F. That's not happening.
Yeah, I give the first prediction a D, the second one an A.
Bubble screens for 40 yards, and even if he doesn't go deep in the weather, no, you're crazy.
My bold prediction is that the Dolphins have their lowest point total of the year.
Ooh, that's a good one. I'll give that a B+.
Which is what?
Their lowest right now is 14, so I'm saying they score under that.
Yeah, what did they score against the Chiefs when they played them in Germany?
14.
Yeah, there you go.
That's okay,
there's a real. That's not really bold then, because the weather was pretty good in Germany, and it wasn't.
It's the lowest point total of the year.
That's classic. That's classic Breech. So it's like you're like, oh, 14. That's a really bold.
It was really bold. That's not really bold. The Chiefs held them to 14 last time in good conditions, and now it's going to be the frozen tundra. No,
that's a quintessential Breech bold prediction. I love it. Steelers Bills. This is a game on CBS and, of course, streaming on Paramount Plus. We can't wait for you to watch it. 7 seeds, 0-6 in the wild card round in the current format. The Bills have won 5 straight games, and the Steelers have won 3 straight games. Bills a 10-point favorite here, Pete. What's your bold prediction?
How many starts in a row is this for Mason Rudolph now?
This is 4th.
He will be 9 of 27 for 112 yards and 2 picks.
That is highly specific. God. 9 of 27 for 112 yards and 2 picks.
Yep.
All right. I mean, I give that an A. That's
the quarterback.
Pretty good.
Usually these backup quarterbacks, they turn into who they are in game number 3 or 4. So I'm going to say he turns into Mason Rudolph in game 4.
Yeah, I'm going to give that an A too for this. It was so specific and also could actually happen.
Yeah. I think that could happen. All right.
Did you have anything for a bold prediction, Brinson?
I was going to say that.
By the way, Brinson, you have the Bills as a Super Bowl team. You might be spot on that. And I'm kind of angry at myself for not picking them because I picked Jacksonville like a moron.
And you picked the Bills last year too.
You know, I'm Josh Allen. You know what I think about him as a player.
No, you said it on HQ. I mean, you're the Josh Allen guy.
I mean, I always have been, and I still don't understand the venom directed at that guy.
I think it's just sort of everyone was wrong about him coming out of Wyoming.
And do they still want to? Would they still want to be right about him? You can't be right about him anymore. You missed. It's over.
I mean, yeah.
I'll give you an example. The other night, everybody in the first half of that game. The interception to Gabe Davis, that was 0 blitz. He's got to read that. Gabe Davis ran the wrong route. He's got to read that better. Okay?
Yeah.
The second interception was a 4th down play. He's just heaving it up to try and make something happen. Otherwise, they get the ball right there anyways. So that was not an intercept. That interception gets an asterisk. The fumble was a bad play in the pocket inside the red. And the end of the half, inexcusable for a guy like him. Inexcusable. But then he gets the second half and he carried that team. He finished in that game? Like 75% completion percentage with 360 yards, 2 touchdowns, and he ran for 60.
All because he dominated the second half. Well, I mean, but everybody who was against Allen would use the first half as an argument saying, well, this is the downside. This is if he plays like this, they're going to lose in the playoffs. If he plays like second half Josh Allen, they're going to win the Super Bowl. So it's a full roller coaster ride.
But I'm going to give an example. Those same exact numbers, same exact game. If Lamar Jackson has that same exact game, everybody goes nuts. The 60 yards, the great runs, they go nuts. Yes, they do.
I mean, if his first half is that bad, I don't know.
It wasn't that bad. It was not that bad. Do you count the end of the 4th down interception, or you give him credit for trying to make a play rather than give him the ball right there?
It's an interception. It counts.
Oh, come on.
All right. Packers-Cowboys. Green Bay, 7.5 point dog. These teams have met in the playoffs a ton. Of course, Mike McCarthy, revenge game here against his old team. Cowboys have been 12 straight playoff trips without making the conference championship game, the longest drought of all time. Pete, What's a bold prediction for Packers and Cowboys?
The two quarterbacks combined to throw for 650 yards.
Ooh.
Wow. How many?
650.
That is a ton. That as many as Manning and Romo had in that game in Dallas at one time?
It's going to be a shootout. And Jordan Love is playing great football, and Dak Prescott will be able to throw against that secondary. So I think it's a shootout. Love the over.
650 yards. I like it. I think you actually feel like the Packers, I'll give that a B+. I feel like you think the Packers could actually win this game.
I do, but I don't think they will.
I don't think they will either. I think they keep it within the number. Breech, what's your grade for 650 yards?
If the Packers were going against the Lions on the road, I'd feel better about them having a chance to win.
I give Pete an A-, and I think I am literally on the same page with pretty much everything Pete has said so far, because my bold prediction for Bills Steelers was going to be that Mason Rudolph throws for under 100 yards. And Prisco's out here giving his exact stat line, and it's completely believable. And my prediction for this one was that both teams score at least 30 points, and Pete's out here saying it's to be a shootout with 650 passing yards. So this is, I'm almost afraid.
I'm afraid too.
The world is going to end. The
apocalypse. A little nervous too. I kind of agree with all of these as well. I feel like maybe this a little bubbly and insular. Like there's a lot of people out there who are going in different directions. Hopefully, Rams Lions, the game of the year, of the century, of the week. The Matthew Stafford Bowl, future Hall of Famer Matthew Stafford, his first game back in Detroit as a visitor and his first ever playoff game in Detroit, not to mention the first time in NFL history that two quarterbacks who were traded for each other are playing each other in a playoff game. Everything at stake here, Pete. What's your bold prediction for Rams at Lions?
Is that really the first time that two guys traded for each other have been played against each other?
In a playoff game.
Really?
I'm like 99% sure.
Yeah, I can see the wheels turning on. He's like, can I outsmart our research team?
No, I don't. Maybe our research, I always thought, did Norm Snead and Sonny back in the day, didn't they play against each other?
Maybe it's the Super Bowl era.
Dirk Jurgensen and Dirt Helmet play each other.
Who was Norm Snead traded for? Go look that up for me. And I think
according to the Elias Sports Bureau, Sunday's game between the Rams and Lions will be the first matchup in NFL postseason history between starting quarterbacks who are both facing their former teams.
Weird. I could have swore it happened before, but maybe I'm wrong.
Did you say
Norm
Snead?
He was traded from the Eagles to Washington, or vice versa, or whatever. I think, if I'm not.
But do they meet in the playoffs? Though
I think they might have. No, maybe not.
Eagles send Jurgensen to Washington and trade for Snead.
They never play the playoffs after that, huh?
Let's see. That trade. Hold on.
The trade went down on April 1st, 1964.
This would be so. They could have meant Super Bowl era too. Let's see. I'm looking up maybe they
didn't play in the playoffs.
They don't have the game logs for the playoffs in here. I don't think.
Well, did they play? Did the two teams play in the playoffs?
I'm trying to find, man. I'm trying to find.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible, but that's one where I thought Jurgensen and Snead.
I love that I said that, and you're like, hold on a second.
And he pulls up the trade from 1961.
What about Norm Snead?
They did not, Pete, because the Eagles did not make the playoffs between 1961 and 1977.
Okay,
there we go.
All right.
Where did Norm Snead go to college? I only know this because I have no idea.
If I think about it, I could get that.
It's close to me.
Huh?
Sonny Jurgensen, born in Wilmington, North Carolina.
Yes, he was. Where did Norm Snead go to school? He didn't go to NC State. He didn't go to he went to North Carolina, didn't he?
Wake Forest.
Wake.
He's the number 2 overall pick in the draft.
Sonny Jurgensen went to Duke.
Yeah.
How about these two academic geniuses? All right. Well, wait, what was your bold prediction
for that game? Track meet. So I'm going to go same way, up and down. They're going to go up and down. You're going to go for each team will score 30.
Okay, 60 points would be a lot. That would hit the over for sure. I tend to think I agree with that. I think it's hard to. I've seen some people suggest that, so I give it a B plus. I mean, I think the over under is 51.5. I'll say a B. I don't want to be too generous. I've seen some people suggest that they think these two games could be low scoring. I don't see how. I think it's
not. I don't see that either.
You just got these surfaces that are conducive for lots of points.
By the way, the Rams' offensive line is really good.
Sean McVay deserves some coaching.
I give Les Snead props all the time, but I think he's done an amazing job with that team.
You going to give Stafford an MVP vote?
No.
Boo. Okay.
But I have nothing but the respect for Matt Stafford as a quarterback. You know that. I always have.
He's getting to the Hall of Fame. Don't you agree?
Probably. But if he makes another run in the playoffs, he's definitely getting to the Hall of Fame.
If they make it to the Super Bowl, I don't think he has to win. I think if they make it to the Super Bowl, he's a lock.
Yeah, they're probably getting it.
All right. Breech, any grade for this?
A-.
Okay. Finally, Eagles at Buccaneers. The Eagles limping into the playoffs as the 5 seed. The Bucs win the division. Pete, that's one of your, I'm not going to say preseason misses, because I think one of your preseason regrets, you wanted to take the Bucs and bailed on them after the second trip to Tampa Bay. The Bucs defeated the Eagles 31-15 in the wild card game of the 2021 season. Tom Brady in that game, of course. Jalen Hurts' first career playoff game that year, 2 interceptions. Eagles lost 5 of the last 6. Bucs won 5 of the last 6. But the Eagles did beat the Bucs up in week 3 with a decent game from Jalen Hurts. What's a bold prediction here?
Baker Mayfield outplays Jalen Hurts.
That's a good one. I give it A minus.
I'll give it a B plus. Who are you predicting to win, Pete? Give us a preview of your picks for tomorrow, for Wednesday.
Katie Fox.
I'm probably going to pick the Bucs to win that game.
Ooh.
I'm going to pick the Cowboys to win, close, high scoring. I'm going to pick probably the Rams in an upset.
Ooh.
That's always good too, because you annoy Rick Spielman when you pick against the Lions, since his brother works for the Lions too. No, I don't know. I'm picking in that game. I haven't really picked that one yet.
Hey, Washington got those Lions coordinators interviews quick, didn't they?
Yeah,
it's like the first ones in
are going to blow out the Steelers. The Chiefs are going to win and cover against the Dolphins. That Dolphins team is a shell of itself.
Rams and Bucs
talking about Mike McDaniel being in trouble down here. That's ridiculous.
What?
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Because his brand of football doesn't work in December?
And then the Browns are going to beat the Texans.
By how many? Over or under 8?
By 5 or 6.
Ooh, okay.
And then what's the other game I missed? I'm missing one.
Rams Lions.
You got them all.
I got them. I think that's all of them. But yeah, that's preview.
I think only Bucs and Rams are the upsets I've got.
Bucs, Rams, and you don't. Yeah,
Browns are favored in Houston.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's take a break.
But having said all that, I've been saying this for a while, Brinson. You know this. I think the playoffs are going to be wacky as can be, and we're going to see some weird teams get in.
I agree. I think we're going to get chaos. Speaking of chaos, we've seen some chaotic wild card games in the past. Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll do a blind ranking of wild card games next.
It's
All righty. Time for a blind ranking. We get to the blind ranking with Pete. We usually don't get to do it. Very exciting. We make it up on air, Pete. Of course, you know the rules. We list the things. You get 1 through 5. Wild card weekend. So we're going to rank the best wild card games of all time. Thrilling finishes that may or may not have had an effect on who made the Super Bowl that season. Comebacks, meltdowns, and much, much more. Let's rock. We start with the Bills and the Titans in 2000. I remember watching this with my grandfather in Duval County. The Music City Miracle. Where would you rank 1 through 5? Wild card weekend, all-time wild card games. The Music City Miracle.
5. It wasn't a great game.
5?
It wasn't a great game.
5.
And believe me, Rob Johnson, I love Rob. I've known him for a long time. Put the Bills ahead late in that game, remember? And then the Music City Miracle. And if it were not for the Music City Miracle, the Jacksonville Jaguars would have a Super Bowl. They just couldn't beat the Titans.
So you're ranking this as a bitter Jags?
No, not at all. I think that we've had better. I guarantee you, when you go through these wild card games, we'll have better games.
Is that the year where Jacksonville went undefeated against the rest of the NFL and had 3 losses to the Titans?
Yep.
Oh my God.
You're right. God, that's brutal.
Brutal.
Right. That's just the only team you can't beat are the freaking Titans. All right, Breech, you are up. I can read it. I can read it if you don't have it in front of you.
No, go ahead.
Okay. Next up, Packers and the Cardinals in 2010. The Aaron Rodgers kick 6. I actually remember this game as I believe
game. It was wild.
51-45 was the final, and I believe it went to overtime. This is the game where there was like, can Aaron Rodgers win a playoff game?
3.
That was like 3.
Yeah.
It was a fun game.
It was a fun game.
Do you know who the leading receivers were for each team in that game?
Donald Driver.
No, Jermichael Finley for the, and then a surprising. It's not who you would think for the.
Not Larry Fitzgerald.
No, or was Bolden on that team?
Who was it?
Steve Breeston.
You remember Steve Breeston?
I sure do. Steve Breaston. Yeah.
I
didn't want to say. I didn't want to get in trouble for saying breast on the show.
And the Packers only lost because Aaron Rodgers fumbled it, and the Cardinals returned it for a touchdown. That was the game winner in overtime.
That's right. All right, Breech.
All right, here's the next one. Now I got it in front of me.
This is Pete's. This is probably your number 1, Pete.
Wait, where did Pete put the?
Where do you want to put kicks out? 3. He put kick 6 at Aaron Rodgers.
3. So we've got 1, 2, and 4 left. The next one up, Pete, is your boy Tim Tebow and the Broncos beating the Steelers in overtime when Tim Tebow hits Demaryius Thomas for an 80-yard touchdown.
4.
Would this be 5 if you hadn't put something else at 5?
It would be 5. It's one of the great accidents of all time. Right up there with Nick Foles winning a Super Bowl.
Prisco, can you Tebow? People still Tebowing?
Nobody's still.
God, do you remember when that was a thing?
Here, I could do a Tebow.
All right. So you got 3, 4, and 5 left, which means these next 2 have to be your 1 and 2. Colts and Chiefs, 2014. This one holds a special place in my heart. This is the night after my son was born. I remember watching this game.
Great choke jobs of all time.
Yep, 45-44. Andrew Luck throws for 443 yards, 4 touchdowns, but also 3 picks. Alex Smith goes 30-46 for 378 and 4 touchdowns, and they don't win. I believe Nile Davis was the leading running back for the Chiefs in that game. T.Y. Hilton, 224 yards. Where do you rank it?
The next one is going to be my number 1, whatever it is, because I know it's got to be better than that. This next one will be fantastic.
This game, the Chiefs were leading the Colts 38-10 with 12 minutes left in the third quarter.
Terrible.
Imagine blowing a 38-10 lead with 12 minutes left in the third quarter.
I remember being in the hospital room and setting Robbie down like a little baby and walking downstairs to like go do something because I was like, oh, like I can go get some stuff done. I don't need to watch this game. It came back up. It was like, whoa, what is happening? By the way, Breech, do you know who else? Do you remember what happened on the following day in a wild card game, the first wild card game, the following day?
No.
Andy Dalton lost to Phillip Rivers. In case you were curious,
I knew it was going to be a Bengals loss.
All right, give him the final one here.
Well, you probably did this correctly, Pete, because the last one is Bills Oilers 1993. Bills trailing 35-3.
Number 1.
They pull off the comeback.
Number 1. It was great. And believe it or not, I loved the Oilers because I was a run and shoot guy. And that was one of those that you know what that was? That was 2 high-powered offenses, one without their quarterback. Remember, Frank Reich was the quarterback for the Bills in that game. Went up and down the field after everybody criticized the Oilers because they didn't run the ball. They scored 35 points in the first half. Your defense is supposed to win that game.
Yes.
Was the best. That's the best wild card game of all time.
28. I actually remember watching that one with my grandfather too. I think because I think I was down there. Yeah, definitely at 12 years old. We go down to Jacksonville for New Year's Eve, which was not that exciting, but you're 12, whatever, or 11 or 12. And I just remember watching like just a crazy 28 points scored in the third quarter, the largest comeback, set the dinner record for largest comeback in history.
They were fun to watch.
They sure were. All right, that'll do it for us. Pete's blind rankings, as always, a delight.
Nailed it.
The best wild card games of all time. Of course, we'll be back tomorrow, Tuesdays, with Brady, myself, Brady Quinn, and Leger Douzable to talk all things football. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, give us a 5-star rating. For Pete, for Breech, I'm Brinson. We'll see you guys later.